now we're done with a lot of things, and we are done with the how Selenium works on page source and how we can retrieve elements. But still, we were facing issues regarding a lot of elements that we wanted to retrieve, but we were not able to find any ID or name with that. Now, in this lecture, we will be dealing with those things, and we will be working with XPaths. So the first question that would come into your mind is, what is XPath? It is something, the very basic definition is it is the address of a element on the page, right? So now what address and say how it is denoted? Let us just see that. So let us just consider this page Rediff mail login, right? That would be better because there are a lot of things on this page that we can use. Now here, remember we wanted to click on this particular element rediff.com. Now let us just inspect this for element first. Now this is the element anchor tag which has the hyperlink reference www.rediff.com, and it has some class specified with it, and it has some text inside it. We can simply say click on it. But the thing is that with the things that we have learned in the past, we will not be able to click on it. The reason is that we are not able to locate this element on the page. Now this element has some address. Now, how it is having some address? Now, suppose consider that I am in India, right? Now, in India, in the world, where is India located? We know that, right? So, suppose India is here, right? And the whole world is this. Now, if I specify India, I know that India, everyone knows that India is located at this particular point. Now, in India, suppose I have the address something like this, say DLF Gurgaon. Now, if I specify something like this, everyone will be able to point to a specific sector in Gurgaon in India that this person may be here, right? And if I specify some house number or something like this, say the house number is 123, right? And say DLF 1 Gurgaon. Now, if I'm specifying this information, this is the address of me. If someone wants to find me, I can be found in this location, right? In the same way, suppose there is person B whose address is say 321 house number DLF 3 Gurgaon, right? India. So again, we know that a person can be found in this location. So if we want to deal with that person, we would be going to this particular address and we will be dealing with that person. In the same way, elements on the page have their own addresses. They have their own locations, and if we want to find them, we can find them at their particular location very easily, right? For example, considering this anchor tag, right? I'll just make this text bit look bigger. So this is the anchor tag. Notice this thing clearly now. Just a second. So here, notice this thing very clearly now. What is happening here? We have this anchor tag which we want to have access to. Now to get to this anchor tag, what all things we have to go through? So first of all, we need to go through the world, right? So world is HTML. Inside HTML, there are say continents. So continent is body. We know that we have to get inside body, right? Now the address. Suppose there are multiple states in this country, right? Or say there are multiple countries. So here there are some elements. So we can consider that this is a country. So now here the next thing we have to get access to is this. When we got inside this, we need to look how many things are there, right? Where we have to go. Now there may be some countries listed. You can see that there are a lot of elements listed here. Now out of these elements, which is the element that we want to have access to. So this is the element that we need, right? So here, this is the element that we need. Inside this again, there may be multiple elements. We need to have access to this one, and then this one, and then this one, right? Now, if we go in the straight order, we won't be able to understand where the element resides. This is pretty simple. Now, whenever we want to have access to the element, what is the easiest way? Get to the element, locate the element on the page. So this is the element that we require, this, right? Now to get to this element, what we have to do is that we need to go through a few things. So first of all, this is the element. So the final element needs to be this. Now this can be found inside this div class. Now this div class is inside this div tag is inside this particular div tag, right? This div tag is inside again another div tag. This div tag is again inside another div tag, and then this div is inside body tag, which is ultimately inside a HTML tag. So how many steps are involved? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. After 6 steps, we got to know that where that element is, right? Where the element we want to have is. Now, how we can have the address of this element? Having the address of this element is very easy. What we can do is right click over the element, go to copy, and let us just copy Xpath. Let me just go through this once again. Right click on the element that we want to have access to, go to copy, and then click on copy Xpath. The moment you click on copy, you will be having some text with you. So let us just open Notepad now. So here, this is the element that you have got. Now, what is this text? What does this text specify? This means that on the root we have a HTML tag. Inside that HTML tag we have a body tag. So we have to get inside that body tag. Once we got inside body tag, we need to find a div tag. So there is a div tag. We got inside div tag. Then say we may have more div tags. So we need to get inside the first div tag. I'll get to these numbers in some time, right? Let us just discuss about the tag names right now. So in this div tag, we again got inside the div tag. With inside this div tag, there is another div tag, and finally inside this div tag, there is an anchor tag. Now, what are these numbers here? These numbers specify that there may be some more say tags with the same name, right? This happens sometimes in very like not in a rare case, in a very usual case, right? For example, there are two div tags inside this div tag. We want to have access to the first one. So what we did, remember, we specified number 1 here, right? Now its parent tag is again a div tag, which is the first one we have to use. This means that this div tag may have more parallel div tags. And if we minimize this, you can see that there are actually 3 parallel div tags. That is why we have specified that the first one is the one that we have to use, right? This way, this address gets generated. Now, with the help of this address, we can work with it, and we can simply try, say, have the, say, try working with the element that we want to use. So this is the XPath. Now, let us just build our script and test this particular element whether it is working or not. Let's create a new class. So package name, it is day 5. You can specify the package name directly as well in case if it is not created already. The package name will be created automatically when your class will be created. Now the class name, say Rediff example, right? Here you can see that day 5 has been created automatically. Now we can have main method here. So main method is here with us. Now what all things we have to do? First of all, we need to initialize WebDriver. So WebDriver equals to new Chrome driver, or not Internet Explorer driver, it is slow. Let us just use Chrome driver right now. We'll try Firefox driver as well, maybe it will work fast. Now, next thing is we have initialized the browser. Next thing is we need to go to that particular page. So driver.get and the URL. What is the URL? I'll provide it in some time. Once we have got to this particular page, what we have to do is we need to find that element. Web element, say home page link equals to driver dot find element by Xpath. Right, we have a locating strategy, that is Xpath, which will be allowing us to locate the elements with the help of a Xpath. This is the Xpath that we have to specify, and the Xpath is specified. What's next? Simply deal with this particular Xpath. So here, homepage link dot click, and this is done. Nothing else. Control Shift O for organizing the imports. If you have any unnecessary imports, we can simply remove them with the help of the key combination Control Shift O. And if there is something that is required, it will be automatically importing that as well. Right? Now here the URL. So this is the URL. We can simply copy this and we can paste it here now. Now this thing is with us. Control F11. Let's just try running this whole thing. Right? So over here, you will see that this is executing and the page is open and it has clicked on the element that we wanted to, right? This means that we are able to deal with the element that we want to, right? Now, is there anything that is left? No. But the thing is that this is one of the types of XPaths that we just use. This means that there is another kind of XPath as well, right? So let us just first deal with these kind of XPaths, then I'll be moving on to another kind of XPaths. So these kind of XPaths are called as complete XPaths, right? Or we call them absolute XPath as well. A complete value is specified here so that we have to work with it. We can directly say we know that where the element exactly is, right? Now here, let us just close this. Going back to the page, we tried accessing this rediff.com. Now, what if we want to try to click on this create new account? Would we be able to? Let us just see that. Create new account. Now, create new account has the link specified in the above line. So this is the main element, right? The child element is U tag. So we can simply use click on this as well. Ultimately, the click will be the element that will be receiving the click is anchor tag. So we can retrieve this one as well. Now, for this, let us just try generating our own XPath. So here, so let's just go with this now. This text size is okay. And here, right, create new account. So first of all, the last element that we want to have access to is anchor tag. Now, anchor tag is inside the div tag, right? So div tag, right? Now, how many div tags are there? There is only one div tag. So we can go with it directly, right? Now here, this div tag is inside a div tag, right? And how many parallel div tags are there? There are no parallel div tags. We can simply specify this div tag directly, right? Now here, we have got access to this particular div tag, but there are more div tags as well. Notice something. I use the second one actually. So what I have to do, I need to specify the second one. So this is how we can specify the second one. So we are inside the second div tag. Inside this is inside this form tag. So let us just specify form tag. Now form tag is there with us. We have got access to form tag. Form tag is inside div tag, but how many div tags are there? We need to see that. So let us just see how many parallel div tags are there. I cannot see any remaining div tag, but there may be one parallel. Yes, there is a parallel div tag. So here we need to use the second one because this is the one that we want to have access to. So here this div tag is again inside a div tag, which is the first div tag, right? So div one. This is pretty confusing. Don't worry if you're not able to understand this whole thing. You can feel free to ask me if you're feeling confused. Then this first div tag is inside a div tag, and there are many div tags. So there are three div tags. Again, we need to get to the first one, right? So div one. Now this div is inside a normal div tag, right? So div. Now I already know there are no parallel div tags. We have already checked this one. So this is done. And this div is inside HTML slash body. So this is the XPath that we generated right now. I'm not sure whether this XPath would work or not. Let us just try looking for this XPath. Control F, Control V. Notice something. The element got located here and it is highlighted in yellow. Right? The text has become red. This is the element that we wanted to have access to, right? So we can work with this. Now, going back to the page, I'll comment out this line, actually these two lines, and I'll specify the other line. Web element, say this is the element create new account equals to say driver dot find element by XPath. The XPath expression is this one, the one that we copied. We have the element with us now. So here simply create new account dot click. We can simply work with this control F11. Let's just try running this and let's see what happens. So here we have got to this particular page where we can fill in the information, right? Now notice something. The element that we want to have access to, we are not specifying any ID, we are not specifying any name, we are just specifying a XPath with the help of which we are able to have access to this particular element, right? Now let us just try generating more XPaths. Suppose I would want to have access to this username field. Right click here, inspect it. This is the element, right? Now to get access to this particular element, we can try generating the XPath, right? What I'll do is I'll right click here and I'll go to copy. Now there is another option. There is option for copy full XPath. You can go with this option as well to generate the XPath, which will by default provide you the complete XPath, right? So here, if we go back to the code, we'll comment out these two lines. Web element, say username equals to say driver dot find element by XPath. What is the XPath expression? So this is the XPath expression. We'll get to understand this in some time. Let us just first try using this XPath, whether this works or not. So username field dot click. Sorry, dot send keys. We need to send the data now. So we can send the data, whatever data we would want to send. Say Abhi, right? Control F11. Let's see whether it is doing the thing that we wanted to do or not. Most probably it will be doing the stuff that we wanted to do. And you can see that Abhi is getting printed on the screen. This means that we are done with the thing that we wanted to. Let us just close this browser now. Going back to this page, let us just analyze the XPath that we just copied. and this is the XPath, right? So I'll just paste it here. So what is happening around here? There is an input tag which is inside the second div tag, which is inside the first div tag, which is inside the second div tag, which is inside first div tag, which is inside form tag, which is inside second div tag, and so on. So now if we notice this clearly here, this input is inside the second div tag. You can see two parallel div tags here right away, which is inside the div tag, which is inside this div tag, which is inside this div tag, and so on. So you need to make a path from the root, right? Just a second. Let me just try putting everything here in screen. Okay, so notice this thing. We need to start from here. We need to go until this location. So we need to go very clearly. If there are more tags with the same name, we need to specify the number of tag which we want to have access to, right? There are some tags that we have to omit. What will happen if we don't specify the numbers? The thing is that if we don't specify the numbers here, maybe some other element got located. Why? Because instead of second one, if the pattern is same, it may be getting the first one as well. It is just like you're sending a letter to someone and the address is not complete, and there are two persons in the same region, right? But with a little bit address difference, a number difference only. And your letter got delivered to the second person, but you wanted it to be delivered to the first person, right? So letter is not say delivered to the correct location just because of one thing, that is this number. So this happens here as well. Yes, you're trying to work with the element. If you specify a wrong number here, you won't be able to say deal with the number there, right? Now this is one of the common types of XPaths that use. There is another type of XPath as well, which is more often used than this one. I would prefer using that XPath rather than this one. That is called partial XPath. So we call this as relative XPath as well. So what is the difference between complete and partial? As the name says, complete is having the complete address, right? Say Asia, India, then Haryana, Gurgaon, then some say sector, then some gully number, and then some house number, and then some say floor number, and then some room number, right? On the other hand, in partial XPath, we can simply specify some information which is already unique. We don't have to start from the root. We don't have to start from world. We don't have to start from earth, then we need to go to this continent, thing like that. We can simply start from anywhere from where we feel like a pattern. For example, I can start from India or say Haryana directly, right? Because Haryana is the name which has not been repeated anywhere in the world. So if some letter is marked to Haryana or say India directly, we know that it has to be delivered at this particular location only, right? So here, partial XPaths, how do these XPaths work? Let us just right click on this particular element, go to copy, and now I'll go with the option copy XPath. Here, let's see what happens. So if I paste this XPath, you would notice something, double forward slash star at the rate ID equals to login one. What is this? What is this XPath? Right? How we would be able to understand this XPath? This is pretty simple now. This is the XPath that we have. We can bifurcate into different things. We can get to understand what all things are here now. So let us just go one by one. First slash means element on the page. Second slash, it can be anywhere, right? Anywhere inside the tree. So whenever there are two double forward slashes, this means that the element can reside anywhere on the tree structure, right? Next thing, Just a second. So next thing, this star thing. What is this star? This means that any tag name, right? It can have any tag name. It can be, say, div, it can be anchor, it can be, say, span, right? It can be input, it can be anything, right? So we don't know what is the tag name. Now about the next thing, which is the main thing. So what is the main thing? Just a second, what is happening? So the main thing is this one. Now here, first of all, the square brackets. This means that the element has some information with it, right? Now whenever we specify at the rate specifies something. At the rate means that attribute, right? So just after at the rate, whatever we have specified, if we specify ID, this means that the attribute ID, we can specify class, we can specify name, we can specify anything here. Now to specify its value, the value is specified like this, equals to login1, which is the ID of this element. So here the ID is login1. Now this is the XPath for this particular element, right? This can also access this particular element. Let us just see that now in the code. So here, I'll just copy paste this line. I'll comment out the first line. Let's just keep this as a backup. And here, this is the XPath that we have to use. I'll just replace the XPath. What is the first this difference you'll see? The XPath has been shortened now. Next thing, in this XPath, whenever we generate XPaths through Google Chrome, it by default uses double quotes. We can simply replace these double quotes with single quotes in order to avoid any kind of hassles, say, our code makes. So here, this is the XPath that I've copy pasted now, right? So here there is no need of escape sequence now. It is completely working XPath. We can use it, right? And let us just try running the code. So we have got the XPath, we have got the element. Now this time the XPath is not that long. It is simply telling us that this is the element whose ID is, say, login1, right? So here we are able to have access to this particular element. Now, can we have access to more elements? Yes. Now, with the help of XPath, we can actually have access to any element that we would want. We don't even have to worry about, right? That it has the ID or name or not. Let us just try generating XPath for more elements. Say, I'll try generating XPath for this password field. So here I'll click on this particular button, which is the inspect button. This element has been highlighted. This is the element that we have to use. So input type password, ID password, name password, value tab index 2. Right click on this particular element, copy the XPath. If you click on copy XPath, if the partial XPath is available, it will be copying the partial XPath. If it is not available, then it will be by default copying the full XPath. But in case if you want the full XPath, you can go with the option copy full XPath as well. So web element, say password equals to driver dot find element by XPath, and this is the XPath expression. Just paste it right away. Replace the double quotes with single quotes because it may cause a trouble later on for us to understand the XPath as well. This is done. We have retrieved the XPath. We have retrieved the element. Now password dot send keys. What is the data that we would like to send? So I'd like to send 1 2 3 4. Now if I run this code, what would happen, right? Let us just see that. So here, control F11, and it is telling us that there is some problem in the code. First of all, let us just see what is the problem. We started this XPath here. Okay, I have made a very silly mistake. I forgot to close the bracket for the say find element method. Control F11. This is fine now. The code is executing, and here we can see that the password is also filled once the page is loaded, right? So this is what we actually wanted. Now the next thing. So can we have access to other elements on other pages? First of all, let us just complete this. Let us just try clicking on sign in button with the help of a XPath, right? And here, how would we be able to do that? Click on this, go to sign in. So this is the element. It has the name. Is it having ID? No. What would happen in this case? If we right click on this particular button, go to copy and copy XPath. Let's see what XPath has been copied now. So here, if you notice something, this XPath generator in Google Chrome, what it is doing, it is simply trying to get the XPath of the element with the help of its ID, and in case if the ID is not available, right, we will be getting the complete XPath, right? This means that right now this XPath generator is completely dependent on IDs only. In case if you don't have IDs, we won't be able to work with these kind of XPaths, right? Now the thing is, here we have these XPaths generated through the browser itself. Now, can we use third-party plugins to work with these XPaths as well to generate XPaths? Yes. So, how many plugins we have to use and what all things we have to do? So, simply there is a plugin which is available in two browsers now, that is ChroPath. So, this is a plugin which is very useful and it is very easy to use and it is free as well, right? So, simply look for ChroPath in your browser. If you're using Google Chrome, you can simply go to this chrome.google.com link. Here you can find this particular page on Chrome Web Store where you can install it. I have already installed it, so we can use it directly. Now this is about Google Chrome. We'll be discussing about Firefox browser in some time. First of all, let us see how we would be able to use this ChroPath. Remember this page? We located this element. Control Shift C, which opens the inspector, plus it enables the inspector mode as well. We can highlight the element that we would want to have access to. So this is the element that we want to deal with, right? Now on this window, let me just do one thing. Let me just move it, dock it outside so that you would be able to see it in full screen. Now this is the window. There are two sections. Left section is element section. Right section is style section where we are able to see the style information for this particular page. Notice this expand button, right? There is some double forward button. Click on this. There is an option for ChroPath. Go to ChroPath. Here, there are few things that it is providing us. Relative XPath, right? Relative XPath we can use directly. Click on this button. It will be copied directly. Now, going back, let us just see what has happened here. So, ChroPath has generated a XPath for us, double forward slash input at the rate name equals to proceed. This means that it is providing more clear information. There is an input tag on the page whose attribute name is equals to proceed, right? Very, very, very clear information. Now here you can see that if I try to work with this, say web element, say submit button equals to driver dot find element by XPath, and this is the XPath expression that we just copied, right? ChroPath provides the XPath in a format that we can use it directly. We don't have to tweak it. Okay. We have found the element, we can deal with the element now. So say simply submit button dot click. Right, so this is done. We can see that it will be clicking on this particular button now. And let's just try executing this code. So this is working fine. It is telling us temporary error occurred because there is no account exists. So that is why we are getting this error. But the things that we wanted to do, those have happened. Right? Now this was about Google Chrome browser. Let's deal with Firefox as well. So Firefox browser. Here on this particular browser, the same extension would work. That is scroll path. Look for the scroll path extension and you're good to go. Right? Now here on this particular page, first link would be Google Chrome. You won't be able to work with it. The third or fourth link would be addons.mozilla.org. Simply go there and work with it. Right? Now, guys, just give me a second. I'll be back in a moment. Just a second. Here, we can click on add to Firefox here and it will be added to my Firefox instance. Right now, they are just telling us that this is not monitored for security through Mozilla's recommended extension program. Make sure that you trust it before installing. It is okay to install it. It is very good extension. It works the same way here as well. Say rediff.com, click on sign in, Control Shift C. The inspector tool will open. Let us just look at this element here. Element is located on the right section. Here there is a drop down button. We can click on crow path and it will provide us the relative XPath directly. Right? But there is a difference in crow paths that you're using. This one is version 5.0 and here let us see the version, which is this version. This is 6.0. Right? So there would be a little bit difference at both of the places. So don't worry if you see a little bit in inconsistency in both of the places, say both of the browsers, Google Chrome or say Firefox browser. There is a version difference here. Basically, this extension was made for Google Chrome, but due to huge demand, they made the extension available for Firefox browser as well. Right? Those who have worked with FirePath, right? Firebug, and I don't remember the exact name now. It's been 2 years now. That extension not deprecated. So Firefox used to have an extension something like this, which allowed us to generate XPaths more easily. This is one of those extensions, right? But again, I would not suggest you guys using these extensions, and I would cover a part where you would be able to generate XPaths on your own, right? Reason is that if you use tools to generate XPaths, you actually don't get to understand how the XPaths are generated. And when you get stuck into a problem, you're deep inside the well that you can't even come out, right? So there is the third type of XPath that we would be learning now. What is that type of XPath? That is custom XPath. As the name says, we customize it according to our need, right? For example, this element, I would want to have access to the sign in button, right? So this is the sign in button. Now, remember, by default, the XPath generated was with the help of ID. Then we use crowpath. We generated the XPath with the help of name. What if name is also not present? Then what would happen, right? Would we be able to generate XPath in that case? Yes, no need to worry. The thing is, we need to understand few things with the help of which we will be able to generate the XPaths. Here, this is the element. Now we'll try generating a XPath here. How? Let us just see that. So now here the for very basic thing, we need to find the element anywhere. What is the tag name? Suppose it is input, right? I'm considering there is no attribute such as name, right? Then what would happen? Now there are few things that we can go with. We can try with other attributes as well, right? We have the class sign in button, right? Can we specify that attribute? Yes, at the rate class equals to sign in button, right? Make sure that you're specifying the same text. Now this is the XPath that we generated. Let us just copy this and try this XPath, right? Here, hit Control F on the page, Control V, and you could notice something. Immediately the element got highlighted, right? This means that we can have access to this element directly, right? Now, this raises a question: can two elements have same XPath, and can one element have multiple XPaths? So, the first question: can two elements have same XPath? Right? We'll discuss about that. But can one element have multiple XPaths? Yes, one element can have any number of XPaths. It all depends on how we generate a XPath. We can have 20 or 30 XPaths for the same element as well, maybe more than that. It all depends on us how we are able to generate it. Right? Now the next question, can two elements have same XPath? Yes. How? Let us just see that. Remember this element div, it has the class XPath. Now here double forward slash div, right? Here at the rate class equals to cell. By just specifying this thing, I got to know that there are 9 other elements. All these 9 elements are sharing the same XPath. So this is also the thing. Any XPath can point to any number of, and XPath can point to any number of elements. There is no limit on this, right? So there are two things. Any element can have any number of XPaths, and any XPath can have any number of elements related to it, right? So now the question is how to generate a good XPath. So whenever you got stuck inside such a situation where you are getting multiple elements, this means that the XPath you have generated is not working fine. You need to look up for a pattern where you can work with it. Suppose I want to work with the cell, which is the second div tag, right? What if I specify number 2? Is it working? No. The thing is that it is still looking for a pattern, right? So there are div tags which are second number and whose class is cell. So there are 3 actually. We need this particular one. How would we be able to get access to this one? First of all, if we specified this XPath, this is not working. This means that this will not work for us. We need to have another thing now. What is that thing? Right? Now, instead of this information, we need to simply omit this information. Notice this thing, there is a div tag whose class is table. Div at the rate class equals to table, right? So again, there are two div tags whose class is table, right? But let's see, we need to get to the second div tag inside it, div 2. The moment I specified second div tag, even if there is a say div tag which has the class table, but the pattern is not existing now. Who, who the tag which is having the say more div tags inside it, right? There are 3 div tags inside it whose class is row, right? And the one we want to have access to is this one, right? So here, what we have to do now, we have got to this particular element. Again, we can specify div 2. Now this is something which is providing us access to this particular element, and we can specify the element that we want to have access to. Suppose second input tag. So right now, if I type input, there are two input tags, right? We can use the second one that we would want to use. Here, this is the element now. Now, for the same element, we have generated a XPath which we can use, right? We can use any of the XPaths that we have. The thing is, maybe some of the XPaths may change with time. Suppose the developer has made the code in a way, the page is dynamic, and the XPaths, the elements are moving here and there with the passage of time. Or the developer updates the application. In that case, the XPath stops working. What we have to do is that we need to be future proof in this case, that we generate the XPath which will work in majority of the scenarios, right? We have to work on the XPath. That is not a big deal. But the thing is that the XPath should be this much stable, even if the page changes, XPath should work. In this case, we have generated a XPath which can work, right? How did this whole thing work? Notice it clearly now. We tried to find a div tag whose attribute is class, whose value is table. We just found it, but there were two div tags. Now we specified another thing inside the pattern, that this div tag whose class is table has more, say, more than one div tag. So at least there are two div tags. We need to get inside the second div tag. We specified this part. Notice the bottom of my screen right now, right? Then inside this div tag, we want to have access to the second div tag. This also states that there are at least two div tags inside this div tag. So here this is also done. And in the ending, we want to have access to the second input tag. The moment we specify this, we are actually able to access the element that we want to have access to, right? Now here, this is still pretty confusing that how the things are going around. Let us just choose some other element, a easier one now. So remember this rediff.com link. Let us just analyze this one, right? This is the element that we want to have access to. Ignore the highlighted one below. I'll just remove this XPath so that it is not highlighted. This is the element. It has the class F12. Will it work? Let's see that. So here, double forward slash A, the moment we specify this thing, it will simply look up for all the anchor tags on this page, and there are 115 anchor tags. Specify some attribute at the rate class. There is an attribute who has the value, say the attribute is class, who has the value F12, right, equals to F12. There is only one element with the same XPath. So there is only one element whose tag name is anchor, right, whose class is F12. So with this particular XPath, I would be able to deal with this element once again, right? This means that I can have access to any of the elements on the page. It's just that I need to understand from where we have to get access to this particular element. What if this class F12 was not available? I would have to look for the element who's, say, the parent element of this particular elements, right? So maybe I would have tried to access the cell logo or top bar or left wrap, right? I would have tried few things with the help of which I would have been able to access this element, right? So the thing is, we cannot always rely on the XPaths generated by the tools and the browsers itself, right? We need to generate the XPaths on our own, and in the coming lectures, you would also be able to understand why am I training on this custom XPath rather than using this crowbar tool, which is also providing me the same XPath right now, which is I'm generating. Right? You can see that the same XPath has been generated here as well. But in the coming time, you'll get to understand why am I not using this particular XPath and I'm trying to generate my own XPath. Right? This was for today's lecture. I know you guys have a lot of questions in your mind, so feel free to ask now. Don't worry that I would mind. No, I won't mind any questions. I want you guys to be clear of the thing that we've discussed today. And now, one more thing before starting off with the question answer part. Remember that scenario that I gave you earlier, that Facebook thing. Now, log into your accounts. Now, the main thing starts. Once you're logged in into your account, try clicking on your profile link here, this button, right? It may be showing your name. After clicking this particular button, what's next? You need to click on this friends button, right? Click here, then provide the friend name here, right? For example, there are some names specified. I can specify any name here, say Simran, right? Provide a name and see if you are able to see the friends names here, right? Provide a name which is not so common, so that you would be able to get 2 to 3 results only, with which you would be able to understand it more clearly. So what is the flow? Log into your account. My account is already logged in, so I'm not logging in. Once you are able to log in, click on your profile link, then friends link, and then simply provide your friend name in the search box, right? Log in to Facebook, profile, link on main page, friends, link on profile page, and in the end, search for a friend. So this is the scenario that you have to go through. In the next lecture, we will be discussing about this scenario. So how you can go through with this, right? We'll be discussing about the issues you have faced. So you can feel free to ask your questions now. Any queries? Yeah.